hidden traps.
Christ our Savior
has come and has borne suffering.
that through his passion
He may
let us glorify him. For he has done us mercy.
to his great mercy.
بسم الله والابن والروح القدس الآن واحد أمين. تحل نعمته وبركته من الآن وإلى الأبد أمين.
Have you guys played with wax from a hot candle before? You know, when you hold a candle and it drips hot wax on your finger and you let it cover your fingertips? Have you done that before? As a little deacon, I used to stand around the altar, and of course you cannot open your mouth, right? So you will hold the candle and it drips boiling hot wax, and the only way to avoid that burning is just to keep moving it until it makes a very thin layer on your fingertips. And then it would be a lot of fun to peel it, right? And see the exact details of your fingerprints, even the small cuts, the minor cuts that you have in your finger, how the wax copied that image. So the key for today's message is to be that wax that is a finger picture, a finger copy of the original. But before we go into the message of today, I wanted just to go through the stations of today, the day of Monday, and what Christ did today. So today, Christ started his day with leaving Bethany and going to the temple. And on the way to the temple, he felt hungry, right? And he found the fig tree. And he starts with cursing the fig tree. And the fig tree next day dries up and dies. Then he goes to the temple and finds people selling doves and all the stuff that's used for sacrifices. And what he does is he attacks them. He basically flips everything on them and kicks them out of the temple. Ends the day of Monday with confrontation with the elders in the temple, who came to him and asked, on whose authority are you doing all those things? And then, as if the day is not enough, he ends with confrontation with the people that asked him, who do you think you are? Are you greater than our father Abraham? So today I feel that Christ launched a full-scale attack on a very important foundation of our society. To the unassuming eye, to the eye that looks from high level, it seems that those 3 stations or 4 stations are random. What does the fig tree has to do with the temple and people selling in the temple, and how does that connect with the confrontation? But to Christ, they are all connected, and that was, as they say, a full scale. You know the Russians, how they attacked? A full-scale attack. Attacked the infrastructure. Attacked all the society from every possible dimension. And today, he made sure, like a true physician, the exposition, he said, like a true physician, he stood there and pointed to the ailment and said, this is cancer. And I am not accepting not to call it with any other thing but cancer. And today, he also made the distinction between reality and truth. Are these 2 words synonymous? What's the difference between reality and truth? Is it the same thing? Reality, is that a single or a plural, by the way? Plural. Reality is plural word. Truth is single. Because there are many realities. Reality is something that we live in, right? That's the reality of this world. We just live it because this is the reality of the society that we live in. But the truth is a single word because there's only one truth. One truth. The society that we live in, the world that we live in, teaches us that my self-value and your self-worth comes from and only from three different things. Number one is your appearance, right? The appearance. Second is your work. And the third is authority. So I'll repeat that because this is important. The world that we live in will teach and will use every possible means to convince us and to convert it into a reality, into a truth, to convince us that this is the truth, that my value and your value has to be based on one of those three. Your appearance, or if you don't have the appearance, then you have to work hard, right? And if you don't work hard, then at least end up with some authority. And as long as you have one of those three, then you have a value in our society. So today, the first myth that Christ attacked was the appearance. The world teaches us is the appearance is everything, right? And they put a lot of emphasis not only on convincing you that appearance is everything, but also starts by luring your foot and bringing you to believe that there are certain parameters for good appearance. And that in order to be of good appearance, you need to be fitting that picture, that the perfect picture that you find on social media, on the movies, and everywhere. And that picture is basically what everybody strives to be. The long hair, the blue eyes, the appearance. The better the appearance, the more value that you have. And if you don't fit that parameters that society sets for you, then you're outside of that value for appearance. And because beauty is from inside, what happens? Beauty is not from outside. So those people that are enslaved to the idea of the appearance, the more they get to work on the appearance, the more depressed they get, the more empty they feel. And as an example, as we all remember Michael Jackson. You guys know Michael Jackson? He was a victim of society. He was a victim of that reality that we set certain parameters for appearance. That, in order for him to be accepted into the society, the poor guy changed his skin color, done massive amounts of plastic surgeries, and ended up with overdose of drugs. Because appearance is from inside, it's not from the outside. So Christ today comes and says to the fig tree that I do not care about the appearance. What I look for is the fruits of that tree. I don't care if the tree was green. I don't care if it looks perfectly beautiful, green, and shaped exactly how everybody wants it to look like. All what I care is the fruits of that tree. So, with that, Christ attacked the first value that the society puts on our worth. That worth, that my value is dependent on appearance. Society will also start to put labels for those people that don't fit into that. Overweight. Other labels that they will start to put to say that short, tall. But Christ today delivered the message that it's not the appearance what I look for. It is what's inside you and what you provide as a fruit. And the fruits of the Holy Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Those are the things that Christ will look at when he determines the value. Type. So if appearance is the first thing that the world teaches us, what's the second thing in order to have value? So if you don't have appearance, it's work hard, right? Work hard. The more you work, the better value you have to the society. Where did this come from? Well, if we go back to Adam, right? Remember Adam in the paradise? What was God's message when he kicked Adam and Eve out of paradise? What did he say? Yes, out of the sweat of your forehead, you eat bread. Means the harder you work, the harder you sweat, you will eat bread. But that was what? A punishment, right? God was punishing Adam by saying that the more you sweat, the more you work. But what we did is that we turned that into a way of evaluating each other. We started equating that to value. The harder you work, the more value, and we forgot that that was originally a punishment for Adam. And it turns out into more and more problem, and people became workaholic and became like postdocs, spend days and nights doing same things and working on different things to prove that my value is high because I work harder. So what's the problem with that? It's okay to work hard, right? Well, I'll tell you I am a geriatrician. I take care of old people. What happens when you get older and you cannot work that hard? You lose your value, right? If you equate your value to working hard, right? Then what happens is that if you can't do that, then you are losing your value. And this is a problem that we see also in serving, right? Some servants will say, I serve from 6 a.m. until midnight. And you know the saying that, are you serving the house of the Lord? Are you serving the Lord of the house, right? It's not about the amount of work that you do. God does not see your value in the amount of work that you do. And I'll go in a minute into how God looks at the work rather than the amount or type of work that you do. So today, Christ, to align that with Christ's attack, he went in his second station to the temple, right? And he attacked the people that were selling doves and all the sacrifices. So what's wrong with that? They were disturbing the holiness of the temple, right? They were working. They were doing their best, right? And they were making money for the temple, right? But God did not see that as a plus. And to understand the key for that, you need to remember that God said your bodies are the temple of the Lord. And he equated those people to thieves, right? So what steals from God's time in your life? This is the question that God poses here. Those people were stealing God's time in the temple. Similarly, who are the thieves in your life that steal that time with God? Work is one of them, right? So, third concept. Okay, well, guys, beauty, cross. Okay? Working hard, I don't like to work hard. So what's the remaining value that the world teaches us that your value are going to be on? It's authority, right? Man, if you don't have 1 and 2, you gotta have 3. Otherwise, you're really in bad shape here. And it's amazing how authority becomes a very interesting subject, especially in our Middle Eastern culture. What is the most famous verse that husbands remember? Christ is, right? No, shaking his head. I don't know what that one. Christ is a husband is the head of the wife, right? And you will find that husbands in general in our society will know nothing in the Bible except that verse. All what I remember is that husbands, I am the head of the household. I am the head. I am the boss here, right? And the wife has to submit to me. I would not remember that Christ is the head of the husband. And Christ said also to sacrifice. It was written in the Bible that husbands sacrifice yourselves as Christ sacrificed himself to the church, right? But it's all about being boss and having control. Who has control in this? And it's not only limited to that, but at work, why didn't I get that promotion? Why are they ignoring me when I'm moving up? Why I'm not getting nobody to listen to me? I am the one who has authority here, right? Because that yearning for control is the third element of our value. I get my value by proving that I am the boss, and otherwise I have no value in there. So those three false concepts. So the third one was Christ went into full confrontation with the elders of the church, of the temple, and they asked him, on whose authority are you doing that? So remember, the first station was the appearance, and that's the fig tree. Second is the temple and the working outside of the holiness of the place. And the third is authority. And they were asking him, on whose authority are you doing this? And who do you think you are? Who's the boss here? Who's your boss? And they are asking the chief of life, on whose authority are you doing that? And the funny thing is that Christ was not lured into that discussion, and he ended up just taking them into a turn and not answering them directly. So those three false concepts is what the world uses to change reality into truth. And nowadays we have something called virtual reality. Do you know what virtual means? It's almost reality. So it's not even reality anymore. It's almost a reality. So today, Christ comes and says to me and to you that your self-worth is not dependent on your appearance. It's not about how much you work. It's not about the authority that you have. So where is my self-value, self-worth comes from? So the reality that we have seen is that each of those things comes. God looks at the tree and says that it looks green, but it has no fruits. It's not about the appearance. So the truth is that God says, you are beautiful altogether without flaw. So that's the first truth, that God looks at each one of us and says, you are beautiful without flaw. The second is that we are the handiwork of God, and God has prepared us for great things to do, right? That he prepared in advance for us. That's Ephesians. And the third is authority. God says, all authority have been given to me. Go and disciple the whole world and make them disciples of Christ. So those are the three things that God teaches about the truth versus reality. So I will step into an area in psychology. In psychology, they describe, I will step into your field. They describe 4 kinds of self. The first kind is the open self. Second kind is the hidden self. Third kind is the blind self. And fourth is the unknown self. Each of us have all those overlapping kinds of selves. First one is the open self. That's what I know about myself and what you all know about me. Second kind is the hidden self. I know stuff about me, but I will choose not to let anybody know about that. طيب. Third kind is the blind self. Blind self, as the name implies, it's what I don't know about myself, but what everybody else around me can see through and can see in me. The fourth kind is the unknown self. And I will argue with you that unknown self is what God sees in me and you. What God sees in me and you is that you are beautiful without flaw, that you have all the authority in the world because you get your authority from Him, and that your work is predestined for good things that He chose for you to do. Today, I pray that God opens our eyes to see through Him that unknown self. Christ saw in Peter what Peter, nor anybody around him knew that Peter can do that. Peter was a fisherman. His ambition would be to be chief of fishermen in the village that he's in. That's his maximum aspiration, right? But Christ saw in him something totally different. So today, Christ says that my self-worth and your self-worth are not based on any of the realities of the world, and that He sees in each one of us an amazing person that He created without flaw. And glory be to God forever. Amen.
نسأل ونتضرع إليك أيها السيد الرب الإله ضابط الكل والابن الوحيد القدوس خالق الكل ومدبرهم والروح القدس المحيي الثالوث القدوس الذي تكسو له كل ركبة ما في السماء وما في الأرض. نسألك يا رب اسمعنا وارحمنا. For the heavenly peace and unity of all churches and the world.